if you ask somebody, you ask them that you're going to Valle da Gafaria. That's the sides of these valleys.
What's it called?
Valle da Gafaria. But I would prefer you like to put in your GPS.
Golf course.
Yeah, you just walk through. It's just 10 minutes from the museum. Yeah, 10 minutes. But she said like people may not know that. So if you say I'm going to Valle da Gafaria, you're like
Valle?
Valle, V-A-L-E, the D-A, Gafaria.
550 meters away from Plaza Infante de Monriqui is an area which 16th century maps of Lagos denote Valle da Gafaria, which translates roughly to Valley of the Leprosarium. The site is positioned just outside the walls of the city. Here, according to tax records which date back to the year 1490, the citizens of Lagos began to pay for the construction of a leprosy hospital to house sufferers of leprosy, individuals which the city typically expelled to the margins. The leprosy hospital is no longer in Valle da Gafaria. The city's namesake is now just a verbal relic of a site long ago razed to the ground. Or it was until 2009, when the foundations of the leprosarium were uncovered during an excavation being performed at the site to make way for the construction of an underground car park. Archaeological intervention revealed the bodies of 11 individuals in the cemetery associated with the hospital, inhumed in positions discordant with the Christian burial rites of the day.
Claro que se encuentra en un basurero, pues todo lo que nos sirve, todo lo que ha sido descartado, ¿no? Los restos consumidos, ¿no? Y lo que es una sorpresa es que nos hayamos encontrado pues, junto a restos de mariscos, ¿no? o de huesos de animales consumidos, ¿no? o restos de piezas que se han partido y que ya no se pueden recuperar, todas esas cosas que tiramos regularmente a la basura. Lo que fue chocante fue encontrar esqueletos humanos, ¿no? Eso era algo que no estábamos a la espera. En realidad, previamente a la excavación de aquel sitio, de aquel basurero, nosotros habíamos hecho, unos años antes, preparando ya esta intervención, habíamos hecho unos sondeos y habíamos identificado uno de los edificios del Hospital de Leprosos y habíamos identificado también en contexto de basurero un esqueleto, pero un esqueleto que estaba bien colocado, ¿no? Y que tenía evidencias que apuntaban a que pudiese tener lepra, a pesar de que el esqueleto tenía modificaciones dentarias, correspondía a una mujer y se había considerado que, bueno, por las modificaciones era de procedencia africana, pero estábamos lejos en aquel momento de pensar que pudiese ser una persona esclava, ¿no? Eso no. Cuando años más tarde se hace la excavación integral del sitio para la construcción de un parking y se identifica todo aquel conjunto de esqueletos tirados en las posiciones más variadas porque han sido tirados a la basura, exceptuando algunos casos en los que efectivamente están bien depositados, o sea, alguien ha tenido el cuidado de dar alguna dignidad en aquella deposición, en aquel entierro, a pesar de que el sitio no fuera un sitio, bueno, era un sitio sucio, pero buscando una dignidad, no sé si me hago entender, ¿no? Bueno, exceptuando eso, la mayor parte son tirados, ¿no?
Então, em Portugal, nas sociedades pós-medievais, seguia-se o cristianismo católico. E então todos os rituais pós-morte tinham um cânone muito específico a seguir. Porque quanto melhor fosse seguido esse cânone religioso, melhor era a hipótese de salvação, neste caso, do defunto para o céu. A posição, então, colocação do corpo dentro da sepultura seria em decúbito dorsal, ou seja, cabeça virada para cima, com os braços cruzados embaixo na cintura, em posição de repouso ou ao longo do corpo. Em sepulturas em que encontramos então os indivíduos em decúbito ventral, seja virados para baixo ou em posição fetal, significa que algo não foi cumprido de propósito, e isso era reservado para que tipo de pessoas? Para pessoas com doenças infectocontagiosas como a tuberculose ou a lepra, pessoas com deformidades morfológicas, que às vezes também não se conseguia pôr mesmo direito porque a pessoa tinha alguma uma deformidade que não dava, pessoas com deficiências mentais, pessoas suicidas, prisioneiros, condenados à morte, acusados de bruxaria, eram todos colocados então nessa posição, ou seja, então pessoas que não eram aceites dentro da sociedade, mas eram colocados nessas posições, ou seja, também não era atirado.
So when you see a skeleton like this, it's difficult to say that this person has been buried. It's like a person who has been dumped.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's clear. I mean, like, if you really respect the body, you dispose the body, you made a grave, and you put all this together, and like, that's it. But this, there is no respect. Yeah? No respect. People who were found with the hands and the feet bound. One example, with the hands and the feet bound.
Another entrapment. This entrapment.
Yeah?
Lagos.
In Lagos. So,
Do they talk about it down there? So I know we've had some things in the U.S. where they have found some of the graveyards that are unmarked, but law said you gotta stop it. Those counties, they stop it right then. They kibosh any construction that's going on, they stop it.
I would love to have this in Portugal.
They just keep it moving here.
Keep moving, as you say. You have the parking space, you have a mini golf club on top of it. People come there to play golf. And
nobody makes a fuss about it?
Okay. So this what happened in 2008, found in 2008.
Were you to visit Valle da Gafaria today, it would be nearly impossible to know that you were standing on a mass grave. Few traces of the excavation persist. No monument has been erected. Instead, an aerial view of the site reveals the presence of a mini golf course, where the excavated ground was once visible, now buried. From the ground, the coloured pixels converge and materialise into iridescent sculptures, which perform their leisurely arabesques over an unmarked grave.
So the graveyard is still buried in a way, and this burial of the graveyard itself and of the slaves that were buried, although there is the front stage or the public side of the facade, which is the slave market museum, but the burial was, so to speak, reburied. The slaves were reburied by means of the golf course that was put on there, and an acknowledgement of the violences of Portugal's imperialism. I mean, it's not just like a footnoting it, but making it the core of what empire was about. It requires a radical change a radical transformation of self-perception of Portuguese nationhood. And this is very hard, a very difficult step to take. I mean, personally, I think individuals themselves have difficulty. I mean, I understand that. People have been educated for ages, I mean, for over 1 century into this idea of the discoveries of the empire, of tolerance, of racial tolerance and non-existence of racism, etc., etc. And even though there was a colonial war in the 60s in Africa, like at the Portuguese Vietnam, people still have difficulties. And when they look back to these old times, like the 15th century, 16th century, in looking at these old times as times of violence and this horrors, and to the empire and the nation has built upon a sea of horrors instead of a sea of glories and adventures, or both at the same time, perhaps. But I think one difficulty, one reason why it has been difficult to monumentalize is because this requires radical transformations in public narratives of the nation and self-perception of Portuguese nation. And the second aspect that I think is probably interesting to reflect on regarding the history of the slave, of the monumentalization or the non-monumentalization of the partial monumentalization of this place as a place of slave memory is the capitalist investment in Algarve, and the fact that this place was subject to something that was not just about Portugal. I think there is here a dimension that speaks to the veracity of global capitalism for land in contemporary Algarve, and transforming places of which were something else in the past, whatever they were, like rural areas or just fishermen villages, into places for entertainment of British people coming to the Algarve to drink beer and play golf, or Americans or someone or French, I don't care. It's just that it is not, this